There is a story whispered among desert wanderers, a story the textbooks refuse to touch, a story the sands themselves seem reluctant to reveal. They say that deep beneath the dust of Dashur, beyond the reach of tourists and far below the surface where sunlight dares to travel, lies a structure unlike any other raised by human hands. A structure designed not to honor the dead, but to awaken the living. They call it the Black Pyramid, but that is not its true name. Most people have heard fragments of the legend: a collapsed monument, an unstable tomb, an architectural failure of the Middle Kingdom. A mistake, a miscalculation, a forgotten chapter in Egypt's long and golden history. But the truth, if you're willing to hear it, is far stranger. The ancient Egyptians were masters of illusion. They built their greatest messages not in papyrus, not in carvings, but in stone itself. And this particular pyramid, the so-called Black Pyramid, was never meant to be a symbol of glory. It was meant to be a lock, a seal, a barrier. And what it protects is not a secret of death, but a secret of consciousness. For thousands of years, the priests of Kemet hid something beneath its foundations, something older than Egypt, older than writing, older perhaps than civilization itself. Something they believed humanity was not yet ready to fully understand. They concealed it behind layers of myth, metaphor, and architectural misdirection, ensuring that only those with the eyes to see would ever get close. Why would a civilization obsessed with immortality deliberately bury knowledge this powerful? What were they guarding us from, or protecting us for? And why does this pyramid, among all the pyramids of Egypt, feel like a warning rather than a monument? In this video, we will dive into the shadows that surround the Black Pyramid. We will explore the forgotten symbolism the ancients left behind, the clues hidden in collapsed chambers, and the esoteric teachings that suggest this pyramid was never a failure at all, but a message crafted in stone for a future age, an age that might just be ours. Take a breath, settle your mind, because once we enter the Black Pyramid, nothing you know about ancient Egypt or about yourself will feel the same again. To understand the mystery of the Black Pyramid, we must first step back, far back, into a world where myth and reality were not separate realms, but two sides of the same golden coin. In ancient Kemet, architecture was not simply construction. It was theology, psychology, and cosmology carved into form. Every angle, every corridor, every chamber was deliberate. Nothing was accidental. This is why the commonly accepted explanation that the Black Pyramid of Amenemhat III was a failed experiment collapses under its own weight. The Egyptians did not build monumental structures casually. They planned them with astronomical precision and spiritual purpose. If something went wrong, it was usually by design or part of a deeper ritual logic the modern world has forgotten. Originally, this pyramid was encased in gleaming white limestone, much like the Great Pyramid at Giza. Under the desert sun, it would have radiated brilliance. But somewhere between intention and completion, its purpose shifted. The outer casing was removed, exposing the dark mudbrick core beneath. Over time, the structure sagged and cracked, as if hiding what lay beneath. Historians call it a structural failure. But in the oral traditions of several priestly lineages, yes, those that survived through fragments in Nubia and esoteric schools, the Black Pyramid was said to be intentionally weakened, like a shell that must crumble before it can be opened from within. According to these traditions, the pyramid was built not to preserve a pharaoh's body, but to contain a relic from a much older epoch, what the priests called the stone that remembers. A device or artifact, not necessarily technological in the modern sense, but energetic, conscious, something believed to carry the memory of a forgotten age, possibly even pre-dynastic or pre-cataclysmic. This is where the story turns philosophical. The Egyptians believed that memory was not simply recollection, it was power. Memory tied you to your origins, and origin determined destiny. To forget one's spiritual origin was to fall asleep. To remember it was to awaken. And so, the Black Pyramid was designed as the keeper of memory. But not just any memory, a memory humanity was not ready to reclaim. The priests of Kemet operated on a principle found across many ancient traditions. Knowledge is not inherently good or evil. It is the consciousness of the seeker that determines its effect. They feared that if the stone that remembers were accessed by those unprepared, it would distort rather than enlighten. It would amplify ego instead of soul. So they buried it beneath a structure that only collapses inward, never outward. A perfect metaphor for knowledge that must be approached only through inner transformation, never external curiosity. This is why the Black Pyramid is different. It is not a monument, it is a threshold. A place where history, myth, and metaphysics intersect. But what exactly is this stone that remembers? Why was it so dangerous? And why did later dynasties and even modern researchers avoid discussing it openly? To uncover that, we must step deeper, past the history, into the heart of the mystery itself. If you stand before the ruins of the Black Pyramid today, it doesn't look like much, just a distorted mass of mud brick, sloping and sunken, as if the earth itself is trying to reclaim it. But appearances deceive, because what lies beneath those fractured stones was engineered with almost surgical precision. The Egyptians believed that physical structures could shape consciousness. Temples were not just places of worship, they were mind machines. Initiatory chambers, harmonic resonances, corridors aligned with stellar bodies. These were technologies of the soul. And the Black Pyramid was, in many ways, the culmination of this idea. To understand why, we must revisit the stone that remembers. Imagine for a moment a stone not defined by its material, but by its function. A stone that stores not information, but intention. A stone that responds not to touch, but to presence. Something crafted or discovered in an age when human beings were more attuned to subtle forces. An age before the rise of modern rationalism, before the mind grew louder than the soul. According to an esoteric manuscript attributed to the priesthood of Sobek, fragmented, obscure, and frequently dismissed, the stone that remembers was said to hold the vibrational imprint of a civilization that predated Egypt's known dynasties. Not an alien civilization, not a lost continent floating in fantasy, but an earlier human epic, the Zep Tepi, the first time. A period the Egyptians spoke of with reverence, when gods walked as teachers and human consciousness operated on a higher frequency. The stone, then, was not an object of worship, it was a tuning device, a mnemonic anchor, a reminder of what humanity once was and what it could become again. But here is where the story shifts. The priests feared that the energies held within the stone could act like a mirror that amplifies the true nature of whoever approaches it. To the prepared, it would reveal clarity, memory, and inner awakening. To the unprepared, it would reveal chaos, confusion, shadows, because a mirror that reflects the soul does not discriminate, it shows everything. This is why the Black Pyramid's inner architecture is unlike any other. Its chambers do not ascend like the Great Pyramid. They descend. They spiral inward like a labyrinth designed not for the body, but for the psyche. The deeper you go, the heavier the air feels, as if the pyramid compresses thought itself. Some chambers were intentionally destabilized, their ceilings engineered to collapse if the wrong path was taken, symbolically and perhaps literally protecting the core. But here is the detail most people miss. The pyramid was constructed from mud brick, not stone, a choice uncharacteristic for a royal tomb. Mud brick absorbs energy differently. It's less reflective, more grounding, more akin to earth than sky. In esoteric terms, it represents the descent into the subconscious, the realm of memory, shadow, and transformation. In this sense, the Black Pyramid is not a monument of failure. It is a metaphor embodied in architecture. A reminder that spiritual awakening is not an ascent into light, but a descent into the depths of the self, where forgotten memories sleep. The collapse of the pyramid, then, becomes symbolic. The outer identity must crumble for the inner truth to emerge. The priests designed a structure that would physically reflect the spiritual process it guarded. They wanted the pyramid to appear broken, forgotten, unimportant, so that only those who sensed its deeper purpose would approach it with reverence rather than curiosity. And the greatest secret? The stone that remembers was said to activate only in the presence of someone whose inner life is balanced, someone whose heart is lighter than the illusions they carry. A living echo of the ancient weighing of the heart ceremony. This raises a profound question. Was the Black Pyramid a tomb, or an initiation device intended for a future age when humanity would once again seek to remember what it truly is? To step deeper into the mystery of the Black Pyramid, we must explore a truth the ancient Egyptians understood with startling clarity. The most powerful secrets are always hidden in plain sight, wrapped in stories, symbols, and deliberate contradictions. This is why the Black Pyramid remains one of the least discussed monuments in Egyptology. Not because it lacks significance, but because its significance is too unusual, too contradictory, too disruptive to fit neatly into academic narratives. Let us start with a puzzle. Archaeologists who have entered its inner chambers report something peculiar. The pyramid feels alive, not metaphorically, energetically, as if the walls hum with a quiet pulse, as if the air thickens the deeper you go, as if the structure is responding subtly to the presence of the observer. This is unlike any other pyramid in Egypt. Even more curious, the Black Pyramid contains multiple false passages and decoy chambers, far more elaborate than those typically used for tomb security. These pathways lead nowhere, dead ends sealed with massive blocks, corridors that seem intentionally redundant, and chambers whose only purpose appears to be confusion. But consider this through the lens of esoteric architecture. A labyrinth does not hide a treasure. It tests the seeker. In Egyptian metaphysics, a labyrinth represents the human psyche, a structure of countless corridors, some leading to truth, others to delusion. The Black Pyramid's inner layout is not merely protection against thieves. It is a psychological mirror. Now, let's address the greatest point of confusion. Why is the structure collapsing? Most scholars cite poor engineering. Mudbrick wasn't strong enough. The foundation wasn't stable. The geometry was flawed. But the Egyptians mastered sacred geometry long before this pyramid was built. They created symmetries so perfect that modern engineers still marvel at them. They understood weight distribution, pressure chambers, and structural resonance. They were not amateurs. So why choose a material that would decay? Because decay was the symbol. In many esoteric traditions, including the Hermetic teachings that emerged from late Egyptian mysticism, the collapse of form represents the fall of illusion. The ego must break so the essence can reveal itself. A shell must weaken so the seed can open. Mudbrick, porous and fragile, was the perfect metaphor. The physical world is temporary, but consciousness endures. So the Black Pyramid was designed to collapse inward, never outward, ensuring the outer form would fade while the inner core, the relic chamber, remained hidden and undisturbed. Now we turn to the myths. In a lesser-known funerary text attributed to the priesthood of Heka, the god of magic, there is mention of a dark mound that holds the echo of the first time. A cryptic reference to a place where the memory of Zep Tepi was sealed away, awaiting the age when mankind forgets itself. This text describes a stone that sings when the heart is quiet, a poetic phrase widely dismissed as metaphor, unless one considers ancient vibrational technologies, resonance chambers, and the Egyptian obsession with sound as a path to transcendence. Could the stone that remembers be a vibrational device? A tuning stone? A relic meant to harmonize consciousness with a higher frequency? If so, then the Black Pyramid was not simply a vault, it was a frequency filter. Only those capable of meeting the stone at its vibrational state could access its knowledge. Others would encounter only confusion, disorientation, or collapse. Which brings us to the modern issue. Why is the Black Pyramid largely inaccessible today? Why is it politely ignored in tourism, academic tours, and documentaries? Why is its inner structure so rarely shown on camera? Because the pyramid's instability offers a convenient explanation. But beneath that explanation lies something more strategic. Some structures are easier to ignore than to explain. If a pyramid challenges the narrative of Egyptian history, it becomes an outlier. If a relic challenges the narrative of human evolution, it becomes a threat. The Black Pyramid does both. And so its truths remain buried, physically and intellectually, waiting for those who can approach it not with curiosity alone, but with clarity. Now that we've explored the mythic and metaphysical architecture of the Black Pyramid, the real question emerges. What does any of this mean for your life today? Because the heart of esoteric knowledge is not found in ruins or relics. It's found in the human being. Every temple, every monument, every cryptic inscription that ancient Egypt left behind was ultimately a mirror, an external representation of an internal journey. The Black Pyramid is no exception. It is not merely a sunken monument in the desert. It is a symbolic blueprint of your own consciousness. The priests who sealed the stone that remembers understood a truth that modern people often overlook. Memory is not just the ability to recall facts. It is the essence of identity. Beneath all the noise of your daily thoughts lies a deeper memory, a memory of who you were before fear shaped you, before the world labeled you, before life carved its lessons into your skin. This is the memory of the soul, the ancient self, the inner original. The stone that remembers symbolizes this hidden core. Awakening it is not a matter of accumulating knowledge. It's a matter of peeling back the layers you've unconsciously built over the years. In this sense, the journey begins the same way the descent into the pyramid begins, by entering the labyrinth. Your mind contains countless passages, beliefs formed in childhood, habits born from survival, expectations absorbed from society. Most people wander these corridors without ever realizing they're trapped inside their own architecture. The path toward awakening requires honesty, a willingness to sit with discomfort, and a courage to question the stories you've accepted as truth. Once you begin this inner descent, something inevitable happens. The outer shell starts to crumble. The Egyptians designed the Black Pyramid to collapse on the outside, but remain intact at the core. Your life reflects this same principle. When transformation is approaching, the parts of your identity that no longer belong will start to fall away. It might look like an unexpected ending, a painful transition, or a moment that forces you to confront yourself. These experiences are not chaos, they are construction. The collapse is clearing space for what is real. In this softened interior, the inner stone can finally be felt. The Egyptians used breath, silence, and sound to reach these deeper states of awareness. You can access them too by sitting still, breathing into your belly, and allowing your focus to sink into the quiet space inside your chest. If you stay with this stillness long enough, you may begin to sense a faint glow beneath your thoughts, not a visual light, but a presence, a remembering. This is the awakening of your inner stone, the moment when your consciousness shifts from analysis to awareness, from noise to clarity. And once this inner memory awakens, your life naturally begins to rearrange itself. Choices become clearer. Intuition sharpens. Old habits dissolve because they no longer match the frequency of who you are becoming. You start stepping into relationships, paths, and environments that feel like echoes of the person you were always meant to be. You begin to remember not just what you want, but why you are here. This is the true secret of the Black Pyramid. It is not a monument hiding some ancient relic that only the chosen may access. It is a teaching encoded in stone, reminding you that the greatest treasure is buried inside your own depths. The priests of Kemet were not protecting humanity from a physical object. They were preserving a truth so powerful that it had to be discovered through experience, not simply handed down through words. Awakening is not about learning something new. It is about remembering something ancient, something you once knew, something you lost, and something waiting patiently for your return. In the end, the mystery of the Black Pyramid is not simply a story about a crumbling monument buried in the sands of Dashur. It is a reflection of a deeper truth, one that the ancient Egyptians encoded into their architecture, their myths, and their initiatory rituals. They understood that the greatest secrets were never meant to be found in grand temples or in gilded tombs. They were meant to be discovered in the human being who was willing to journey inward. The Black Pyramid teaches us that wisdom is not preserved through perfection. It is preserved through paradox. A structure designed to collapse on the outside while guarding its core is a lesson in spiritual resilience. Life, too, wears away your outer layers, your roles, your fears, your defenses, not to destroy you, but to guide you toward what is indestructible within you. In this way, the ruin becomes the revelation. The stone that remembers symbolizes the part of you that never forgets your purpose, even when you do. It is the quiet pulse beneath your doubts, the intuition that rises when you silence the noise, the ancient knowing that awakens when you finally turn inward. The Black Pyramid is a reminder that the most sacred chambers of your life remain hidden until you are ready to enter them, and that readiness is born not from seeking more, but from shedding what no longer belongs. As you leave this exploration, let the Black Pyramid linger in your mind, not as a relic of the past, but as a metaphor for your present. Consider this: what parts of your life are collapsing because they are meant to? What inner chamber have you been avoiding? What truth within you is still waiting to be remembered? You are not wandering blindly. You are navigating your own sacred architecture. And perhaps that is why the ancient Egyptians hid the truth of the Black Pyramid, not to keep humanity away, but to ensure that only those who are truly seeking themselves would ever understand its message. If this journey opens something within you, I invite you to continue exploring these mysteries. Share your reflections below, subscribe for more hidden wisdom, and let's keep walking together through the ancient corridors of the soul.